Now, the world's largest drinks maker is Coca Cola, and they plan now to remove a controversial ingredient from some of its brands by the end of this year. And it's a move that comes about after an online petition was set up by a teenager from Mississippi. This substance is called brominated vegetable oil, or BVO. It's going to be cut from Coke's fruit and sports drinks such as Fanta and Powerade. But what is BVO? Let's take you to Alice Baxter, who is in the newsroom for us. What is it, Alice?
Thanks, Lucy. Well, I'm actually not inside the newsroom. Today, the world's newsroom is coming to you from inside the BBC's canteen in the bowels of New Broadcasting House. This is where everyone from all across the BBC's different language services comes for their lunches and their breakfasts and their dinners. And of course, it's also where we can buy all sorts of different drinks at all sides of the day. And stories like this really make you think, what is exactly inside all of these different drinks that we so readily buy? Well, to help me with all of this, Michelle Roberts joins me, health editor of the BBC website, and Samantha Barry, our social media guru. Michelle, help us out. What is BVO?
It stands for brominated vegetable oil, and basically it's put into certain drinks to help preserve it and keep the flavour fresh. So something like Fanta in the US would have this compound in it, and it would help keep the citrusy flavour there so it doesn't separate out in your drink. Currently in the EU we don't have any of this in any of our drinks. It has been banned because there have been some concerns about any health consequences. Now, it's still not clear whether it actually causes any big problem, but the fear is that in certain studies in animals and one case in a human, there seems to have been some associated risks with this drink.
Okay, well, Samantha, let's bring you in here because and talk about this specific campaign. It's a real David and Goliath story, isn't it? This teenager from Mississippi taking on the might of Coca Cola.
Fantastic. Sarah Kavanagh, a Mississippi teenager, has decided she questioned the inclusion of this drinks in particular drinks that were targeted towards sports people. She set up a petition on change.org and it was signed by thousands of people. But the most important person that heard it was this $80 billion company and started taking notice of what can only be considered people power. And it's so important for companies, in particular big organisations like Coca Cola, to take notice of what people are saying about them on social media, on these petitions, because unless they address that, they're going to really fail in terms of consumer relations.
It's a really fantastic example of people power, isn't it? Consumer power. But Michelle, do we really know what the health problems associated with BVO are? And do we feel that there's been enough sort of regulation about it? You mentioned that here in the EU, it's banned completely, both in drinks and in foods.
I mean, certainly this move by Coca-Cola is consumer-driven. It's not a safety issue. They're stressing that very much. And the evidence that we have from animal research is not clear. There was one case of a US man who had been drinking a lot of fizzy drink every day. So he'd been having up to 4 litres a day over weeks and months. And he developed some of these sort of symptoms that they had seen in the animal research. So he had some problems with his nerves and muscles. But again, the doctors were baffled by it. They think it was down to the BVO, but they don't know for sure. So again, we do need more research on this, and it's not so much of a clean-cut thing where we can say things are or aren't safe.
Okay. And what about the other big drinks companies, Sam? Have they taken note of this campaign?
Well, Pepsi was also on Sarah Kavanagh, this Mississippi teenager. She also targeted Pepsi in it, so they also took note in this petition. But what for me is quite fascinating about this story is gone are the days where you would write a strongly worded letter to a corporation where it's filed away and you don't get an immediate response. Now, for a response, people are taking to Twitter, they're tagging directly the companies, they want an immediate responses. And you can't just deflect from this social media, you've got to answer it back if you want your company to have a successful consumer profile.
Yeah. You're not just writing a letter to one person, are you? You're writing a letter to millions on the World Wide Web. Sam, Michelle, many thanks from us here in the BBC canteen with our many drinks. Back to you now, Lucy.
Alice.